Well, you asked for it, so here it is. The Pixar Unholy Trinity. And first up on the docket, Toy Story 4. And don't worry guys, this time I'm actually going in order from least bad to most bad. I don't know why I didn't do that with the Disney Unholy Trinity. I guess I'm just stupid for some reason. So yeah, leave your guesses for what the other two Pixar movies that are somehow even worse than this one are in the comments down below. Toy Story 4 is a movie that more than just disappoints me. I mean, it really shouldn't exist in the first place, and I think everyone kind of knows that. Toy Story 3 was basically a perfect ending to the franchise. I mean, sure, they made a couple of shorts and TV specials after that, but they didn't really do much to change what happened in that movie. They were just kind of for fun, you know? But this movie just straight up attempts to completely alter the perfect happy ending of Toy Story 3, as well as just, well, not really being a very good movie in general. In the past, I didn't used to hate this movie, but my opinion on it has kind of sunk as time has gone on. I mean, I never really liked it either. It was always, like, mediocre at best, in my opinion. But now, I absolutely detest it. And I think the most frustrating thing is the fact that even though it doesn't really have any business existing in the first place, that doesn't mean it had to be bad. There are some good ideas sprinkled in here that are just completely wasted. And, well, without further ado, I present why Toy Story 4 is an abysmal failure and quite possibly the worst sequel that Pixar has ever made. Okay, now I don't want to sound overly negative right off the bat, but even the beginning of this movie is already making big mistakes that showcases a lack of care from the creators to create a movie that falls in line with the prior three. The rescue scene here is just okay, and really only exists to show us Bo Peep again. But this Bo Peep is a totally different character from before, especially considering these events here at the beginning are supposed to be set in between the second and third movies. So, not much longer after she was like, this.
What do you say I get someone else to watch the sheep tonight?
Hell yeah.
Remember, I'm just a couple of blocks away. Don't let it get to you, Woody.
Let what? I don't, what do you mean? Who?
I know Andy's excited about Buzz, but you know, he'll always have a special place for you.
I've been looking forward to this all year. It's my one time with just me and Andy.
You're cute when you care.
Oh, not in front of Buzz.
Let him look. This is for Woody when you find him.
All right, but I don't think it'll mean the same coming from me.
But now her personality is this.
Bo!
Situation?
Lost toy, side yard.
Operation Pull Toy. Flashlight.
I could also throw in that her dress is completely different now, being soft instead of hard. Like it was always poofed out. Which is annoying and inconsistent. I hate little inconsistencies. But it's a comparatively small complaint when put against the changes to her personality. I'll talk more about the problems with Bo when she comes back later in the movie. But I thought it was very important to address that her personality shift has nothing to do with her changing as a person over the years, but rather the writers just wanted to change her to be someone she never was previously so that she would fit into their contrived story. But even after that whole rescue scene, we're still not through the intro to this film retconning things. The very next scene that happens is one of the most atrocious moments in this whole entire movie, and I am not even joking. Bo Peep is about to be taken away to be donated, and Woody goes after her to say goodbye. But instead of just us getting an emotional goodbye that was missing previously, Woody nearly climbs into the box and leaves with Bo Peep! Wait, let's just pull back for a moment here.
What?
Why on earth would Woody ever even consider getting in that box?
It's so ridiculously stupid that Woody almost gets in this box right here, with how loyal he is to Andy in Toy Story 3, which happens after this scene. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, he was willing to abandon all the other toys at Sunnyside to go back to Andy in Toy Story 3, but here he's about to just give up on Andy because Bo Peep says so? What?
Did the person who came up with this scene even watch Toy Story 2? Or 3 for that matter? In Toy Story 2, Woody comes to the realization that he would rather stay with Andy to the bitter end than selfishly go off on his own to be preserved in a museum. And in Toy Story 3, Woody specifically is the one who is mad at the other characters for essentially going out of their way to do the exact same thing that he is portrayed as doing in this scene here.
Andy's moving on, Woody. It's time we did the same.
Okay, out of the box. Everyone, right now.
It makes even less sense when you consider how much Woody understands Andy wanting to keep them and that he wasn't going to throw them away.
Maybe Andy doesn't care about us anymore.
Of course he does. He cares about all of you. He was putting you in the attic. I saw. You can't just turn your back on him now.
Woody, wake up! It's over! Andy is all grown up!
Okay, fine. Perfect. I can't believe how selfish you all are.
But here, that was never even an issue, and Woody was about to hop ship on Andy for no reason other than Bo Peep is apparently more important to him now. Like, at this point in time, Andy is still actively playing with his toys, so why would Woody even consider leaving him? I know he likes Bo Peep, but Andy was always the more important person to him. He knew he had to be there for him, and he was always upset when Andy was upset. And he would get upset at himself if he felt like he wasn't good enough for Andy, like when he lost his hat at the start of the second movie. A perfect scene to bring up since it also involves Bo. And here we can see that Woody's relationship to Bo is basically like a very strong crush. They clearly like each other, maybe they even consider themselves boyfriend and girlfriend. But it's not like they are married and fully dedicated to each other. Woody, however, has chosen to dedicate himself to Andy and to be with him whenever he may need him until the moment in Toy Story 3 when Andy finally moves on, and so does Woody, because his mission at that point was complete. And I haven't even brought up the fact that him trying to join Bo Peep here would mean abandoning all the other toys. You know, like Buzz Lightyear, for example.
Just go. I'll catch up.
Somewhere in that pat of stuffing is a toy who taught me that life's only worth living if you're being loved by a kid. And I traveled all this way to rescue that toy because I believed him. I'm proud of you, cowboy.
Besides, when it all ends, I'll have old Buzz Lightyear to keep me company. For infinity and beyond.
Need I say more? He was about to abandon his best friend, his partner in crime, the one who stuck with him through thick and thin, who he would have been lost without in the prior movies. Like how without Buzz, Woody would have never come to the realization of what was really important in Toy Story 2. And he's the one who Woody said he would stick with to infinity and beyond at the end of that movie. And all of this without even considering him, bringing him up at all, wondering whatsoever he would think if he just left without even saying anything. Woody can be insecure sometimes and make mistakes, but he isn't heartless, especially when it concerns someone who he has created an unbreakable bond with. I could go on and on, but this moment here is a complete betrayal of Woody's character right from the start. And after that, we get a short montage to bring us to the current point in the timeline. And I'm gonna be honest, I've never liked this montage. Here's why. It's just a ripoff of the same montage from Toy Story 3, but without the emotional gut punch. And it's just an excuse to include the iconic You've Got a Friend in Me song. And it's just so lazy to incorporate this song in exactly the same way the previous movie did. You don't have to be cliche like that. Toy Story 2 had the song included via a remixed version sung by Wheezy at the end of the movie, which was far more clever and unique. Oh, and also, Andy looks totally wrong. Like, that is not Andy, I don't care what you tell me. Well, regardless, we catch up to when Woody is given to Bonnie, and we can see in these early scenes at her house that the movie has a clear agenda. The agenda being, Woody has to go. A huge point throughout this movie is the idea that Woody is no longer a valuable toy to Bonnie, and he should move on and find a new life. Setting aside the implications of this, which are similar to complaints I had about the earlier scene with him almost getting in the box with Bo Peep, implications which I will cover more later on in this video, Woody not being played with is such a stupid and forced plot point.
It really doesn't make sense that Bonnie just suddenly doesn't care about Woody in this movie, because in the last movie, she loved him when she found him. Why would she? I mean, she was so happy when she saw him of all the toys that Andy brought to her house at the end. Like, she didn't care as much when she found Jessie in the box that Andy gave her, but she really cared when she found Woody. And also, I was just thinking, it's pretty ridiculous that Woody was like one of the only toys she didn't pick. Like, she picked every other toy.
In fact, it doesn't even make sense within the frame the movie is trying to set. Basically, Woody doesn't get played with for like a week at most, and suddenly it's the end of the world! What happened to waiting months, and maybe even years, for Andy to play with his toys before the start of Toy Story 3? Just compare Woody's perspective in each movie!
First off, we all knew Operation Playtime was a long shot.
More like a misfire.
But we've always said this job isn't about getting played with, it's about...
Being there for Andy, we know.
But we can try again, right?
That's the third time you haven't been picked this week.
I don't know, I don't keep count.
Oh, you don't have to. I'll do it for you.
Okay, I get it. It's been a while.
Oh, looky there. You got your first dust bunny.
Oh, how adorable.
Despite the fact that his situation was far worse in the third movie, Woody was still resilient that Andy would eventually play with them, or at least take care of them, which he eventually did in the end, thus proving Woody's trust and loyalty to Andy correct. But in this movie, he hasn't gone through anything even remotely as tough as that, and yet he is reacting far worse. Sure, he tries to be tough, but the movie tries to make us believe that Woody feels insecure because of this, and that deep down he believes this is a sign that he needs to move on. Even though there is no reason for us to think for a second that Woody would ever think that way based on how he acted in the previous movies.
That's my opinion, and that's common sense.
And you also can't tell me that Woody has just changed since Toy Story 3 or whatever, because Bonnie is barely older than she was in that movie, meaning this movie takes place mere months or maybe 1 to 2 years later max. Woody would barely have had all that much time to adjust to his new environment, and he should see these issues as things he just has to get used to, having such a different kid to play with and all that. Just look at how he spoke to the toys in the first movie when he was calming them down over the potentially stressful events of the birthday party.
Hey, listen, no one's getting replaced. This is Andy we're talking about. It doesn't matter how much we're played with. What matters is that we're here for Andy when he needs us. That's what we're made for, right?
Sure, he spoke from a privileged position, being Andy's favorite toy and all, but he was trying to be empathetic, showing that he understood the fear they had. I mean, he went through a similar ordeal shortly later in that movie, and though it hit him hard, he clearly knew the consequences going into that situation. So how come here he is made to look like he is in denial and that he is coping with a losing situation? That just doesn't seem like the way Woody would respond.
Like, they really made sure to make this dad step on Woody twice. Like, what does this movie have against Woody?
Furthermore, Woody not being played with doesn't make sense logically. In Toy Story 3, Bonnie was ecstatic finding Woody and implementing him into her games. This also had a great effect on Woody, who felt comfortable for the first time in a while. People who like the theme of this movie say that Woody was in a bad spot and needed to find a better life to make him happier, thus giving him a truly happy ending. But those people so quickly seem to forget that this movie had to undo the very happy ending he had in the previous movie to do that. Why does Bonnie suddenly seem to not care about Woody and just Woody? It's all very contrived. Like, As you will soon find, just about everything in this movie is contrived. Okay, so I have a question for this movie. If Bonnie truly doesn't care about Woody anymore, then why does the movie constantly show her caring about Woody and/or Woody doing something important in Bonnie's life that proves he has worth as her toy? What do I mean, you say? Well, first off, if Bonnie doesn't care about Woody, why did she bother writing her name on his foot in the place of Andy's? Like, this was a very deliberate move. She would have to go to the effort of scrubbing his foot and then carefully spelling her name, or get her parents to do that. So clearly she likes Woody. Secondly, we see her play with Woody in this very movie. Yes, the movie that claims she doesn't play with him anymore. During the Forky self-assassination montage, there is a shot in which Bonnie is seen playing with Woody and Forky and 0 other characters.
And also, look at this. How come Bonnie is only playing with Woody and Forky here, and none of the other toys now? And apparently Woody still thinks that he's useless to her by the end of the movie. Like, clearly, she specifically likes him for specific things that other toys can't do.
Surely this proves that despite not wanting to play with Woody all the time, she still wants him around in case she is feeling like playing with him again.
The movie is internally inconsistent on what it thinks about how useful Woody is.
And lastly, even if Bonnie didn't care about playing with Woody anymore, Woody himself should realize that him getting played with is not the only value he offers to Bonnie or the other toys. Firstly, she snuggles Woody in bed, showing that Woody can comfort her at night. And he, of course, decides to go with her to school in secret to make sure her day works out all right, showing that he can be a helpful watcher, subtly improving her life even when he isn't being played with.
I'm worried about Bonnie. A toy should go with her to orientation.
Didn't you hear, Dad? You'll get Bonnie in trouble.
Yeah, but kindergarten's so different, it could be too much for a kid.
Having a buddy with him to get through it can really help things. I remember with Andy, I would go to school with him.
I'm sorry, Woody. I hate to sound like a broken record, but Bonnie's not Andy.
Why is this, like, purple-haired girl just, like, such a jerk in this movie compared to Toy Story 3 also?
And most importantly, he, through many struggles, is the one who convinces Forky to go and be Bonnie's toy, showing that he can guide the other toys as a leader and a friend, making sure they are always the best versions of themselves and always being the best they can be for Bonnie's sake. And that may have an even greater effect on Bonnie than the joy she could have ever got from just playing with Woody, since he would be ensuring she always has her toys, and they are always there for her, essentially passing down his wisdom to the next generation of toys. But for some reason, this movie disregards all those reasons and still clings to the idea that Woody is useless to Bonnie now.
That's a good one, Squidward.
Assumedly, just so this movie can have its cheap ending, which tries to top Toy Story 3's, not in quality, but in emotion. Regardless of how much nonsense they have to invent to create a scenario that would seemingly be more sad than Toy Story 3's. Excuse me there, I was getting ahead of myself a little. Let me pull back a bit. Ah yes, I believe I mentioned Forky for a moment there. Perhaps it's time to discuss him. Now, before I immediately start ranting about why I hate this guy, I want to make one thing very clear first. I absolutely love the concept of Forky. When this movie was first announced, and they released a teaser trailer showing all the usual main characters spinning in a circle, holding hands, which, by the way, is totally bait because most of those characters are, like, almost not even in this movie. Anyway, we then see this spork joining in with them, and I was actually intrigued. You see, before this trailer, I had no faith that this movie was a good idea. But after seeing this, my mind started racing, and I loved what I thought they were going to do here. Have a movie that explores the existentiality of being a toy, by introducing a toy who believes they are worthless because they aren't a quote-unquote real toy.
You know, when I first saw the trailers for this movie, I was very excited over the idea of a handmade toy like Forky over here. But sadly, as you'll see when this movie continues to go on, the execution is not as good as I hoped it would be.
It felt like the movie was going to follow in the footsteps of the first three and expand upon the ideas and world building that defined the original trilogy. Unfortunately, my hopes were dashed when the movie at last released, and it turned out that Forky was little more than an afterthought in the grand scheme of things.
The fact that most of this movie revolves around nonsense with Bo Peep later on is stupid to me. I think it should have revolved around Forky, actually. And I think they should have made Forky into a much more interesting character than he ultimately is. Because I think that would have been a much more interesting idea for another Toy Story movie. To simply revolve around the idea of a toy having an existential crisis due to the fact that he thinks he's not really a true toy.
You see, in my opinion, the whole movie should have been centered around Forky.
Which is just, in this movie, one idea that's crammed into a load of others that are prioritized. And also, said toy is stupid and unlikable.
But more on that in my fixed version of the movie at the end. Instead, the Forky plotline is just used to get Woody to Bo Peep, and after that, it is dropped and he becomes an irrelevant plot device.
Also, it's pretty pathetic, too, that this movie tries to make a point that Woody is useless, but this sport here is somehow going to be, like, the greatest toy Bonnie's ever had. That's doing Woody pretty dirty right there.
And then there is his personality.
You're Bonnie's toy. You are going to help create happy memories that will last for the rest of her life.
Huh? What?
Oh, yeah.
See, there's interesting ideas going on here, but the execution is so poor because Forky idiot face here is such a stupid character.
I find Forky to be really grating and obnoxious.
I get it now. I'm Bonnie's trash.
Yes. Wait, what?
I am Bonnie's trash.
No,
Oh,
not
man,
exactly.
She must be feeling awful without me. Woody, we gotta get going. She needs me.
Yeah.
Hey, Bonnie, I'm
Whoa,
coming.
Forky, slow
Come
down,
on,
Forky.
Woody. Bonnie, I'm coming.
See, this stuff that Forky is saying is like the kind of stuff that I didn't really care for when, the movie was first announced. It's not the kind of aspect of this character I wanted them to explore.
Just like some idiot man-child with a very low IQ score.
Why does Forky think that he's trash if he's only alive because he's a toy? Okay, so if Forky doesn't think he's a true toy, why should he follow the rules of a toy? This isn't like, Buzz Lightyear in the first movie who thinks he's like part of some culture with Andy.
The movie threw away so much potential for this character by just making him dumb, since it relieves him of the need to think for himself. He just immediately and instinctively believes he is trash and should die.
That doesn't make any sense, because he was made from he's made from plastic and other materials, the same type of stuff that most toys are made from. How does he have an idea that he was thrown away in the first place if he wasn't alive until he was turned into a toy?
Woody, aren't you being a little dramatic about all this?
I know this is...
Like, look, what's with this purple-haired girl? Why does she have to be so condescending?
And so, instead of exploring his thoughts on how he is treated by the rest of the world and his place in it, we instead have to watch Woody insufferably stop him committing self-elimination, literally just because he is dumb. Until the outrageous scene where they have a talk on the road, in which he then just decides to do a complete 180 for the sake of the plot. After that, all he does is just say stupid stuff that is supposed to be funny, but isn't.
Bo?
Bo. Bo, 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 bo.
No, that wasn't funny. You see, I'm not making myself very clear. Funny is like this. Not funny is like this. And right now, I'm like...
He basically doesn't have any role in the finale of the movie either, which just makes me question what is even the point of him in the first place? Why add him into the movie and bring up these interesting questions if you weren't going to do anything with it?
That little voice inside me would never leave me alone if I gave up.
Since when is it giving up to ask help from your best friend?
Well, look what time it is. It's Wheel of Character Assassination time! Let's spin the wheel to find out which beloved character will be assassinated next. Well, well, Buzz. It looks like it's your unlucky day. When I first watched this movie, the most obvious and annoying problem that bothered me was Buzz Lightyear and how he was portrayed.
Who do you think it is? Who? The voice inside of you. Who do you think it is?
What have they done to Buzz in this movie? Why is he literally just an idiot now for some reason? Oh, so Woody doesn't trust Buzz to watch because Buzz is an idiot, and he's always been an idiot. There's definitely evidence of this in previous movies. Definitely don't use the fact that he thought he was a space ranger as a straw man fallacy.
Some genius behind the scenes apparently thought it would be a hilarious idea if Buzz was essentially just turned into a dumb comic relief character who maybe on occasion gives underwhelming emotional support. How so? Well, basically, all of Buzz's actions are no longer made by himself, and his beliefs for that matter too, but rather they are decided by random chance, based on a voice line that appears when he presses his chest buttons. Why does he do this? I genuinely don't know. It makes him completely unindependent. There's probably a better word for that, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. And never in the previous movies does he act like this. He also asks Woody in a very serious and genuine way what the voice inside him is. And this might just be the single dumbest scene in the entire movie, in that it is undoubtedly the hardest scene for me to believe and take seriously. You're telling me that Buzz Lightyear, the character who went through an entire arc in the first movie about coming to terms with the fact that he is a toy, not a space ranger, somehow, years later, doesn't know that the voice lines that are triggered when he presses his buttons are part of him being a toy?
I cannot believe it!
Furthermore, this movie uses this as a way to get Buzz from point A to point B without actually having to put in the brain power to think of how he would solve a problem. And worse, to stop Buzz from doing things in the plot when he should obviously be doing something. Since everything about his personality says he should do something, they instead have his buttons just take over his brain and possess him into thinking they are law, and not doing the things that he should be doing. Not to mention that his buttons saying what they do when they do is not funny at all, and is a contender for the most contrived thing in this whole movie. All of this is, of course, nothing like how Buzz was in the previous three movies. It strips him of all his depth and development. The scene, which I will soon get to, I promise, with Woody and Forky on the road, even has a line in it where both Woody and Forky are laughing at how supposedly stupid Buzz Lightyear was in the first movie.
So he thought Andy's room was a planet? Wow, that is messed up.
Right, that's exactly what I thought when he first showed up.
I mean, how is that not annoying?
Thank you.
But this is a complete straw man argument. Dare I say, the only reason Buzz was so emotionally affected in the first movie, and the reason why he is so strong in the later movies, is because he is intelligent. Think about it. If Buzz was actually stupid, he would deny being a toy even in the face of undeniable evidence. But he doesn't. When he hears he is a toy, he has a moment of denial, but quickly finds out he was wrong. And it is because he isn't stupid that he accepts his new reality. He starts to lose it because his whole worldview was thrown out the window. It made him feel stupid and worthless, but the fact that he was able to accept the truth and move on shows that he isn't dumb. So screw you, movie, for trying to gaslight people into thinking that. Oh, and another one of the most annoying things about this movie is how it sidelines so much of the main cast of the previous films.
Why does this movie spend so much time with, like, random characters and completely sideline most of the characters that people actually cared about from the first three movies?
To a certain extent, I can understand Mr. Potato Head since his voice actor had died, but even then, it's not impossible to recast someone. In fact, if you allow me to go on a tangent for a moment, what is Hollywood's problem? Actors and characters are not one and the same. It's pure bullcrap that a character like Black Panther is made to die in-universe just because the actor playing him died. Just recast! Look at Dumbledore in the Harry Potter movies. I happen to think that both actors who portrayed the role were equally good in different ways. Removing a character from a fictional story, especially an animated one where they will still look identical just because the actor died, is stupid. But even still, if they didn't want to recast Mr. Potato Head, what about the other characters? Why did they have to be sidelined? And what makes it worse is how, at the time, this was planned to be the final Toy Story movie. Why would you, in the final hurrah of the franchise, abandon most of its iconic characters and focus on a bunch of random, less developed new ones instead? If they really wanted the franchise to go out on a high note, I don't know, kinda like how Toy Story 3 handled things, then wouldn't you want the characters to go on one big adventure together before the end? Just look at Avengers Endgame. The Russos made sure that all of the original 6 Avengers survived the snap because they knew it would be the last appearance for some of them. And they wanted that original team to have one last big adventure before things changed dramatically. And it's not that I have a problem with new characters. I actually encourage the introduction of new characters. I think some franchises suffer a lot from recycling the same characters far too often. Transformers. The thing is, these new characters need to be developed in an interesting way to stand toe-to-toe with the older iconic ones to win audiences over. But most of the new characters here aren't given that development.
Howdy, Sheriff. Officer Giggle McDimples. I run Pet Patrol for Minneapolis. Yeah, search and rescue.
That's interesting, but not important.
Like, who cares about this tiny little, police officer girl anyway? Yeah, and we really want to see more Combat Carl than, Jesse or Buzz or Ham or the Potato Heads or Rex or, any of those characters that would totally be much more interesting to be watching.
And the only ones with any development at all are unlikable. And it just makes you want to see the older characters even more. It would have been so much better if the whole main cast had just come along with the new characters instead of being shoved aside, since that would have allowed them to be naturally added to the cast. Just look at Toy Story 2! It's easy to forget that characters like Jessie and Bullseye weren't always a part of the franchise, because they are so naturally introduced into the story without sidelining any of the old characters. In fact, Toy Story 2 features more characters in prominent roles than the first movie did, while also introducing new ones. The point is that it's just disappointing how most of these characters were treated in this movie, and it didn't have to be this way. So, that scene that I keep mentioning that was really dumb with Woody and Forky walking down the road?
I can't believe Woody is forced to drag this guy around throughout the whole movie.
Well, now it's time to talk about that scene. You see, during this scene where Woody has left the other toys to rescue Forky, the two of them decide to have a massive conversation as they walk down the road. Now, if they were discussing interesting things that forwarded their personal plot lines, then maybe I might like it. But no, instead, most of their talk ends up being a montage of Woody explaining the full plot of the first 3 movies. Why does he do this? Because, for some reason, Woody says Andy instead of Bonnie. Why does he say this? Well, there's only one reason he would accidentally say Andy instead of Bonnie, and that is if he has not moved on from being Andy's toy.
You are going to be there for Andy when he
Who's Andy?
I mean, Bonnie.
Well, yeah, Woody's totally not moved on from Andy yet. This is definitely justification for why he should leave at the end. This movie seems like it's trying to make a point about Woody, maturing and moving on from Andy and Bonnie or something. But if anything, it makes him less mature than he used to be.
Do I need to explain why this is insanely stupid? It implies that Woody has somehow not grown at all as a person, and that he is still so attached to Andy that he can't accept having Bonnie as his new kid, which goes directly against the themes of Toy Story 2 and 3. In Toy Story 2, Woody comes to terms with the fact that one day his kid will grow up, and that he is willing to face that rather than run away selfishly. This point will definitely not be relevant to the ending of this movie or anything. And in Toy Story 3, we see Woody deliberately go out of his way to get the other toys to Bonnie because he knows that she is a good kid. And we see in that movie how much he likes being there. And, as I mentioned before, how much Bonnie likes to play with him. There should be absolutely no reason from any angle why Woody would be upset with Bonnie or clinging to Andy. All this does is reverse his character development and make him look petty and obsessive when he isn't like that. Not since the first movie, anyway. And of course, there is the info dumping, which is also extremely stupid, since it only exists to catch Forky up on the plot of the earlier movies.
Also, it's pretty contrived, too, that Woody just accidentally mentions Andy here, just so we can basically tell him the entire story of all the previous movies. So that idiot face over here has all this knowledge, conveniently for later in the plot.
But why, you ask, does he need to know all this stuff? Oh, I don't know. It's not like there will be an extremely specific and contrived scenario in which he is captured by a villain who manipulates him into thinking she's nice, and then pries out this info to manipulate Woody emotionally, and there would be no way for her to do this if Woody doesn't tell Forky everything that ever happened to him on his road walk here. And all because he's written to be clingy and says Andy instead of Bonnie, which is out of character. Like, a scene like that could never happen. What's that? Everything I just said is exactly what happens later in the movie? My point being, this is literally one of the most contrived things I have ever seen in my entire life. And for what? Just to lead to the villain of the movie getting what they want? More on that later.
Aren't we going to Bonnie?
I know. But my friend might be in there.
Like, why is Bo Peep suddenly more important than getting back to Bonnie? Why can't he just take Forky back to Bonnie and then go look for Bo Peep?
Woody? Bonnie's right there.
Yeah, well...
Look! Forky has a point. She's right there.
Maybe later, sweetie.
Gee, maybe you should have gone to Bonnie first before looking in that antique shop or something, Woody.
Let's see. Who's up next on the character assassination wheel? Oh, look, it's our old friend Bo Peep, who missed out on the previous entry in this franchise. But hey, she's back for more, and that can only be a good thing, right?
Wrongo.
Bo?
Yeah, well, Woody's so enamored by Bo Peep that he would risk showing everyone that he's alive. And also that disc totally would not protect them from the view of most of the people on the playground.
Bo Peep in this movie is not only far worse than she used to be, but she is so different from her old personality that she may as well be a completely new character. In fact, it would have been better if she was a new character, as that would have both fit better with what the movie was trying to do, additionally remove the outrageous coincidence that Woody would run into her after all these years by sheer chance.
Wow, isn't that a coincidence that she just so happens to pick up Woody while also holding Bo Peep?
Oh, wow. What are the odds?
Well, it is a cartoon, sir.
What did I tell you about breaking the fourth wall, Carl?
Sorry, sir.
And would have prevented her from being completely destroyed by this movie's writing. What is so wrong with her, you ask? Well, let's start with the fact that she is just kind of a jerk now. Bo Peep always used to be the most kind and understanding character in the first two Toy Story movies, giving Woody the benefit of the doubt when everyone else wanted to accuse him of trying to get rid of Buzz.
There he is, Ben! Drag him! Let's string him up by his pull string.
I got dibs on his hat.
Would you boys stop it?
Tackle him.
No, wait, I can explain everything.
And being sad when he gets left behind in the moment when Woody tries to get back to Andy's house with the Christmas lights. And in Toy Story 2, Bo Peep showed both compassion and a sense of understanding with how she responds to Woody's worries here.
Oh, great. That's just great. This will be the first year I miss cowboy camp, all because of my stupid hat.
Woody, look under your boot.
Don't be silly. My hat is not under my boot.
Would you just look?
You see? No hat. Just the word Andy.
Uh-huh. And the boy who wrote that would take you to camp with or without your hat.
I'm sorry, Bo.
We can see that Bo Peep is a very calm and collected character who is slow to anger and tries to keep everyone from going too far or panicking because she understands the importance of thinking clearly about what to do and what not to do when something is wrong. Just about all that is completely absent from her character in this movie, of course.
Her lamp was the only thing that made Molly feel safe. Mom would let her keep Bo on all night.
Who knew you were such a softie?
And Molly would fall asleep with her hand resting on Bo's feet.
Okay, I get it.
Why is Bo just so mean now in this movie? And bitter. And apparently she's supposed to be right by the end of the movie, too.
Why are you so bad at driving? You got 6 eyes.
But she's kind of mean even to her own sheep.
She is very quick to anger, as seen by how easily ticked off she gets, even by the smallest and most inconsequential things, like Woody not remembering her sheep's names.
Why is she making fun of Woody for not remembering her sheep's names when she apparently only told him once what their names were right before she disappeared?
Or choosing to not give up on Forky, which is simply who he is, and Bo should know that.
That is great. If you know the store, you could really help me find him.
No way.
We wasted years there just sitting on the shelf collecting dust.
You're such a friend of mine, Woody, that there's no way I'm gonna help you rescue someone. Never mind the fact that in the opening scene of this very movie, she was so eager to save a toy against all odds.
Additionally, she also completely lacks understanding.
So which kid is yours? None.
No one. Wait, you're a lost toy?
That's
awful.
Great, huh?
I mean, awfully great that you...
Why would Woody suddenly change his opinion to match Bo's, even though he should hard believe that it's a bad thing? He should be having an argument with Peep right now, not being like, oh yeah, I totally agree, haha.
Oh, come now. We can't have bad temper and differences of opinion in this happy-type colony.
Like in the scene I just mentioned, refusing to see Woody's perspective or give him the benefit of the doubt in any way, like before.
That's not what I meant. Bonnie needs Forky.
No, you need Bonnie. Open your eyes, Woody. There's plenty of kids out there. It can't be just about the one you're still clinging to.
And with that sentence, you just lost the right to even talk to me.
She also doesn't seem to care about being calm and making sure problems don't escalate, since she is quick to insult Woody for messing up her plan, when she didn't even tell him the whole plan to save Forky, making it impossible for him to know what he was doing wrong in that scene. Or how she messes with Woody by acting like him pulling off her arm is something terrible when it really isn't, at least in her opinion.
Come on, follow me. I'm fine. I'm fine. Don't worry. It happens all the time. This will be more fun. Let's get you to that.
See, Woody, isn't life so much better when you break all the time?
This is almost the exact opposite of what old Bo would have done, since doing this makes Woody panic and assume the worst. She also tends to act like she is superior in most scenes, with this really high opinion of herself compared to others, and she never backs down on this self-obsession by the end of the movie. Every scene with her has her showing off, degrading people for seemingly being stupid compared to her intelligence, or just talking in a really smug tone of voice. Completely the opposite of her old tone.
Who needs a kid's room when you can have all of this?
Who needs to be loyal to a kid when you can be selfish and have all this stuff to yourself?
Life is short. If you have a gift, use it for yourself before you've lost it and it's too late.
Oh, and also, you can't claim that Bo Peep just changed over the years that she was missing either, since 1, that wouldn't make her any more likable, and 2, which is more important, she was already acting this way at the start of the movie, during that stupid opening scene, which is set just after Toy Story 2 chronologically. And even if she had changed as a person, that doesn't excuse how she treats a person who is supposed to be her friend. A friend so close that this movie wants us to believe that he'd be willing to leave all his other friends and his kid just to be with her.
What are we doing?
Shh! Just stand there and be quiet.
You're not very nice.
Why'd they have to make Bo Peep so mean in this movie? Especially to Woody. Like, I thought she's supposed to like Woody.
Like, she is basically supposed to be his girlfriend more or less by the end. But if my girlfriend acted like this, well, that is, if I had a girlfriend, then I would probably break up with her unless she stopped being a selfish jerk for no reason.
Yeah, he's with me. My friend? No. He's my accessory.
Wow. Like, the fact that she just calls Woody her accessory right there, like, why? Why does she have to do that? There's no reason for her to be so mean to Woody. Like, by the end of this movie, they're supposed to imply that Woody's still in love with her. Why would anyone stay with someone who's so mean to them like this? Who refuses to listen or give him any benefit of the doubt?
You've handled this lost toy life better than I could.
Oh, Sheriff. You're selling yourself short.
She says Woody is selling himself short, but she's the one who keeps selling him short by insulting him every time he makes any tiny error. And sometimes when he doesn't even make a mistake at all, he just says a thing and she's mean to him for no reason.
Also, why is Bo Peep a tomboy now? Like, the decision to make her into an action character instead of an emotional support one makes no sense to me. I've already pointed out everything wrong with the new Bo Peep, but genuinely, why not just make a new character? I'd have almost nothing to complain about if she was a new character instead. As I alluded to a minute or two ago, this would remove the ridiculous coincidence of her and Woody's reunion, but it would also make it so that none of her flaws are contradictions to her prior character, since this theoretical new character would be introduced as a flawed character who has a completely different worldview and beliefs due to some traumatic past akin to Jessie or Lotso. But instead of letting it get to her, she instead channels that trauma into helping others not end up like her. All this would actually turn these negatives into a positive by making this new character have a great arc of learning to appreciate Woody's perspective and getting to know him. Wait, I gotta stop talking or I'll completely give away my section on how I would fix this movie too early. Overall, Bo Peep in this movie is an insult to her original characterization and a massive missed opportunity to have an amazing new character instead. So, what are all the other characters up to, you might ask? Well, guess what? Pretty much nothing.
Hey, watch it,
What
buddy.
do we do? We have to stop them. How?
We could frame Dad for a crime so he goes to jail. Or go back and...
Wow. That's so funny. Like, wouldn't it be hilarious if their dad went to jail? That totally wouldn't, like, ruin this whole family and make all their lives worse.
Yeah, they've been sitting around doing jack all. Even Buzz only decides to finally take action when he uses his stupid buttons again. You know, taking away his personal involvement in the issue and his active personality.
Oh no.
It's a secret mission in uncharted space. Let's go.
I think, go.
Where are you
Why?
going? Why?
Y'all go? Are we going?
No time to explain. Attack.
No time to explain.
Oh,
Okay, what?
Gee, it sure is convenient that his voice box specifically says the things that would make him do stuff at those moments when he needs to hear it. And I say needs to hear it in quotation marks for the record. Because most of the time it just makes him do stupid stuff and act without thinking, which is not at all how he acted in the previous movies.
If Buzz suspects Woody is in danger, he should be assembling a team to go find him, not waiting around by doing nothing and only deciding to rescue him based on dumb contrivance. I mean, it's not like there's another movie in this franchise that shows exactly what Buzz would do in a situation where Woody goes missing or anything. Oh wait. And why, even when he does decide to go, does he decide to go by himself? What happened to the family bond and dynamic these characters had in the previous films? 2 and 3 especially. They should be sticking together. They should be clever enough to just leave a couple people behind to cover for them. Especially if the only thing Bonnie actually cares about is dummy Fork Boy.
You know, if you don't find him, you can make a new one.
No, there's only one Forky.
Let's go look outside. Maybe he fell on the ground somewhere.
Oh, poor Bonnie.
I know Bonnie likes Forky, but the real question is, will she still like Forky in a couple years from now? Because I'm sure she would still like Woody from a couple years from now, but Forky she'll probably not care about.
Sadly, this is not the case, and Buzz heads out by himself. Buzz heading out is also a mucho dumb scene. Here's why. He is in a highly populated area in broad daylight, and nobody is supposed to see him move. Seriously, who came up with this? Did they pay attention to the rules of the previous movies? Everyone is just super careless in this movie about being seen. It really takes away a lot of the tension that the other movies were so good at establishing, since if a person was nearby, the toys couldn't do anything. But now they only stop doing stuff if it's convenient for the plot. Otherwise, they run willy-nilly, carelessly, wherever and whenever they want. It gets even better too. Buzz manages to pull off some amazing stunt work here and go flying. Due to sheer coincidence, a ride moves up right into his face and smashed him into a trillion pieces. Well, that's what should have happened anyway. In reality, he just gets bonked and falls to the ground all in one piece. Just erase that scene in the first Toy Story movie where his arm broke off completely from a far less intense fall. By the way, I also want to clarify here that the issue isn't that I can't believe this because, you know, cartoon logic or whatever. Like, I'm perfectly fine with accepting the idea of someone like Buzz surviving this hit, you know, because of cartoon logic. The problem here is that it's inconsistent with the first movie and what it already established. And you could also claim that Buzz has his landing slightly softened because of a few things he hits on the way down. But that doesn't really matter when it's the initial hit against the ride that's the main problem. Plus, the door at the end that he bonks against. And no, ricocheting off of stuff does not lessen the impact. am I nitpicking?
Yes!
But that doesn't mean it doesn't still annoy me. And that is when he is brought to the place where he meets another set of amazing new characters.
Hey, up here, Astro Boy. If you think you can just show up and take our top prize spots, you're wrong. Dead wrong.
So, instead of all the characters who got sidelined, we get stuck with these two dweebs here, Ducky and Bunny. Truly the most creative and genius names for characters ever invented. They are supposed to be our comic relief. Too bad they fail at that, most of the time anyway. You see, these two characters have an agenda. They want to be played with, but none of the kids are winning them as prizes. So they decide to take out their frustration on Buzz, someone who has ended up here completely by mistake and has done nothing to them to deserve their hate. What a great way to introduce us to these characters, am I right? Furthermore, it gets even stupider. They are upset that no kid is winning them. So when Buzz escapes, they go after him. Wait a second. Hold the phone! They can just escape, just like that. Then why did they never do that before? If they want a kid so badly, all they had to do was leave the game, go to the playground, and eventually one of the kids would have taken them home with them. Why are they angry at Buzz? It's literally their fault for not having a kid by not just leaving. Also, obligatory mention of Buzz continuing to not think for himself and using his voice buttons instead.
In a galaxy far, far away, you got kicked in the head.
How do I get out of here?
This planet is toxic. Closing helmet to conserve oxygen.
In the vacuum of space, they cannot hear you scream.
It's stupid that he had to listen to his voice box to do that. Like, Buzz in the previous movies would have just activated the helmet thing without needing to hear a voice thing inside of him to do it in the first place.
Anyway, they chase after Buzz, who is chasing Woody, and that leads to this stupid scene here.
Where is it?
Meteor shower. Look out!
Woody? Good work, inner voice.
How's your new kid?
Once again, Buzz's voice always telling him what he needs to hear, conveniently.
What about Rex?
Yeah, Rex, Bullseye, Slinky, the potato heads.
Buzz?
Yeah, Buzz too. I cannot wait to see his face when he hears that I found...
Oh, Peep?
Buzz!
Oh, why is this so stupid, you're asking? Well, because it took Woody and Bo Peep a lot of effort to get onto this roof, including an extremely convenient truck driving by. Yet, mere seconds later, Buzz, who was completely on the ground, is also on the roof suddenly. Now, I'm willing to believe Buzz could make it onto the roof very quickly. Just look at what he's capable of doing in Toy Story 2. But there are two problems here. One, firstly, it is once again broad daylight in a crowded area. He is being extraordinarily risky by moving about in plain sight here. But secondly, and vastly more importantly, he is followed almost immediately by the Duck and Bunny idiots.
So how did Buzz get up here so fast when they had to go through that long, convoluted pathway to get onto this roof? And he's just magically here somehow. I mean, I know he's skilled to get up to places, but like, we weren't shown any way that he could have possibly gotten up there. And not to mention, how did these guys get up here? Like, I could believe Buzz could get up here on his own, finding some secondary route, but these guys?
How in the name of Casablanca did these two dinguses get up here? Like I said, Buzz I could give a pass to, but these dummies? Absolutely not. And also, not to mention, in plain daylight as well. And then they proceed to beat up Buzz for no reason, even though they are free.
We should really like these characters because they beat up one of our favorite characters from the previous movie. And they selfishly just want a thing, and they're like attacking someone who did nothing wrong to get that thing.
Woody then tells them about Bonnie, which is fine, I guess, and they settle down. But then they proceed to keep following the characters around for quite a while, doing pretty much nothing except making remarks that are supposed to be funny, but mostly fall flat. Yep, that's all these two are worth, and that's pretty much all they ever do for the rest of the movie. Anyway, so get this. While Bo and Woody are planning to rescue Forky, this would be about the part where Forky is captured and having a nice tea time discussion with Gabby.
Pretty big coincidence that the girl in the book looks exactly like Molly in real life.
A little higher.
And this is in fact the scene I was referring to earlier with all that nonsense about a super contrived scenario where You know, Woody accidentally mentions Andy, then goes on a spiel about his life story to Forky, just so that he could, you know, relay that same information to the villain over here, just so she could use the same information to manipulate Woody. You know, that whole thing? This is when that happens. It is one of the stupidest transfers of information I have ever seen. Sheer contrivance at its most abominable. And don't even get me started on how Bo Peep's sheep refused to stop biting the butt of this dweeb here for literally no reason.
My sheep!
Why are her sheep biting onto that guy in the first place?
What did I say? I lead, you follow.
I'm so sorry, really. Just tell me how to help.
Why is she being so mean to Woody?
Stay out of my way. I'm getting my sheep back.
What about the others?
Giggle knows what to do.
I guess this is before manners were invented.
Wow, Bo really cares about helping people.
Penny? Aw, nice to see you.
Look, it's a reference to an old Pixar short. That means we should be happy right now.
There was also this brief scene before the characters get to the guy they are looking for, that being part of Bo's plan to rescue Forky, where, in the background, almost unnoticed, there is a toy, specifically the upper half of a stuffed animal who was attacked by the cat, and he looks like he is just fine, and no one is doing anything to help him.
What?
How come in the first 3 movies, it was such a terrible thing to be broken as a toy, and the characters were always stressed about that? And in the first movie, so many of Sid's toys were ripped in half and turned into monstrosities. Those toys saw what happened to another couple of toys Sid was trying to destroy, and saved them. But hey, it's not like Woody or Bo Peep would have empathy for a broken toy. Oh wait. Yes, they would. Both of them have had broken arms. And Woody especially knows how that can affect how a kid sees a toy. And even if, in this movie, Woody and Bo Peep are all about living alone as third-party agents away from kids, there are 2 problems. 1, Woody hasn't made that decision yet. And 2, Bo and him are still helping toys find kids even though they don't have any. Surely rescuing this guy's lower half should be part of their plan. Is he just not important, and he doesn't deserve a kid because he's broken? Well, that's what Gabby thinks. Oh yeah, that's right. She's the villain! Well, anyway, where was I? The movie then introduces us to yet another new character. Don't worry, guys, he's voiced by Kanye Reeves. That means he is totally worth abandoning all your favorite characters from the first 3 movies for.
Like, why does she trust this random Duke motorcycle guy more than she trusts Woody, when she spent so much of her life in the past in Andy's house with Woody?
So, what is this guy anyway? Well, he's some Chuck from Canada who wants to be a stunt driver but has no faith in himself. Sounds interesting? Well, guess what? This will be relevant for literally 2 scenes, which last maybe a minute each, and he does nothing else for the whole movie except briefly talk about his backstory. His backstory is also terrible, by the way. You see, in his backstory, he was abandoned by his kid because he didn't live up to this commercial, and he curls up all sad about this.
This movie has like a bias against kids and their toys.
But the movie treats this like it's a funny joke, and that he was being overly dramatic about his abandonment. But this is very similar to what happened to Jesse and Lotso in the previous movies, and it was a very serious thing in those cases. So why is it suddenly now a joke?
He basically gets abandoned in a similar way to how Jesse or Lotso got abandoned in the previous movies, and yet, oh, look, it's so funny, this kid abandoned him. Ha ha ha, kids are so stupid, aren't they? Ha ha.
Just another case of how inconsistent this movie is with the previous 2. Also, it makes Fako Bo Peep into even more of a jerk since she doesn't care about this guy's feelings on the matter. She would rather he forget about his issues and pretend that stuff never happened than face his past with maturity and move on naturally. And she acts this way all while trying to get him to do something for her. And, okay, believe it or not, I'm actually about to compliment this movie. Yes, you heard me right. Because I actually kind of like this scene where Ducky and Bunny plot an attack on the old lady to steal her key. I was not expecting this when I first watched the movie, and I actually think it's a pretty funny joke, especially with Buzz's reactions.
Oh, where did you 2 come from?
Well, we're not not doing that.
In fact, it's probably the only scene in the movie to be genuinely funny and also not be making a joke at the character's expense. So, in the name of comedy, I will give this part a free pass. This scene alone almost justifies these characters' existence. Almost. Unfortunately, my praise ends there. The resolution to this problem to get the key is pretty stupid. The lady just puts it down, literally right in front of their faces.
Well, I guess the writers just ran out of ideas.
I get that this is supposed to be a joke, but it actually just makes Beau's plan, which I shall soon discuss, even stupider, since all they had to do was just wait before they do anything. You know what? I've avoided discussing this scene in detail up to this point, but I can't run away forever. We've got to talk about the world's dumbest rescue scene.
I can't believe so much of the main plot of this movie is dedicated to rescuing this stupid spork idiot, and all because of a situation he never should have been captured in the first place.
So, as I previously alluded to, Bo Peep does in fact not tell Woody the full plan to rescue Forky prior to the start of the rescue. Why does she not do this? Who can say?
Okay, so why didn't they tell Woody about the key in the first place? Why come up with a plan to break in if you're not going to tell them the most essential part of breaking in?
But what this causes to happen is one of the most utterly unbelievable sequences of events in any film ever. Woody makes a mad dash to save Forky and nearly gets him freed in one go. If it weren't for Bo not just telling Woody about the key first, then he would have succeeded right here and now.
So Bo Peep's like, we gotta do this extremely overly complicated plan. Meanwhile, Woody almost manages to succeed on his own right there.
Yep. Some toy thought it would be a good idea to wander into the aisle.
That doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't, does it?
Everybody knows the best route is behind the shelves.
That would have been a better route, wouldn't it?
Wow, this toy sounds like a complete idiot.
He does.
Oh. Wow, I love how Bo Peep gets to make fun of Woody so much here. Even though his plan would have worked if he had just known about the key in the first place.
In fact, why are they even over here if her plan to get the key is so convoluted and has nothing to do with spying on the enemy here? And also, Bo Peep gets mad at Woody for not knowing about the key, something he could have no way of knowing of, and something she should have already told him about. Then, after some mega sidetracking to introduce the lame-o bike guy, we get back to the plan. Lame-o dweebo bike guy is used to make a jump here, which he fails. But Woody manages to get Forky and free him anyway. Which, I mean, stop and think about how stupid that is. Like, what's the whole point of this bike guy if he just failed?
Look, he's in the exact same position he was at last time when he just ran to get there.
Why did we have to sidetrack so much of the movie to get him, if he wasn't actually going to contribute anything to this big rescue plan? And they could have just done what Woody tried to do in the first place.
So, you're telling me all they had to do was wait for the girl to just put the key down there, and then just do what Woody did in the first place and run straight to the cabinet and open it and grab Forky and run out. And yet instead we have to go through all of this shenanigans just to achieve that simple thing.
But none of that matters anyways, because Dollface and her dummy duo are OP, and a cat is summoned into the scene. And I kid you not, literally everything that could go wrong does.
Girls! Drop it.
You couldn't have told him to drop him earlier. Wow, she only broke one leg off after that fall and didn't just shatter into pieces.
Giggle!
Also, I love how much Bo cares about her tiny little police officer friend so much that she's just like, oh no, she got eaten. Like, that's all she cared.
Whoa! We're not very good.
The bit where Woody is caught here, with his pull string being used in a game of tug-of-war, really annoys me, because it should not keep making sounds like this.
Okay, so why does Woody's, voice lines keep playing over and over again? Like, that's not how the string works.
It should only make one sound, then require the puller to let go in order for the string to reset. I'm sure some will say I'm nitpicking. Yes! And you're probably right. But it nonetheless does not help my already fragile state of suspension of disbelief in this scene. All the characters managed to somehow leave this scene achieving absolutely nothing and just being angry at each other.
You probably noticed I'm not that good at my job.
Wow. That entire scene is just pointless. Is anyone gonna rescue Forky?
Oh, and also, this ramp right here, leading to the perfect escape, is outrageous! Who put this here? An angel?
An angel spoke to us.
No one could have planned this escape out, especially if Woody was not even being informed of basic information like the need for a key. So get this, we're not done with the sheer stupidity just yet. After that disastrous waste of time ends, we get another scene immediately afterward, which is even more insulting. You see, everyone decides to be specifically upset at Woody here for everything going wrong, even though the problems caused have almost nothing to do with Woody's actions, and far more to do with Bo Peep being an idiot.
You know, things only went wrong because of a bunch of ridiculous circumstances that never would have happened if Bo Peep had a real plan and not a stupid plan that just overcomplicated things, and they just did what Woody did, but with the key, and moved faster and more stealthily.
And it is infuriating because the characters arguing here doesn't make any of them grow in a meaningful way.
Just because.
Why?
Because it's all I have left to do. I don't have anything else.
So the rest of us don't count?
That's not what I meant.
Stupid argument time.
Buzz, in fact, arguably devolves as a character in this scene. More on that in a second. And the Duck and Bunny characters have literally no stake in this matter, so who the heck even cares about them? And why can the characters not just try again? They all escaped alive, and they have gone through much worse than the comparatively joke obstructions they faced here that should have been easy to overcome if the writers didn't forget that teamwork is supposed to be a key trait of Woody, Buzz, and Bo Peep. Woody seems to be the only person with a functioning brain and heart here, because he is the only one who is determined to save Forky.
It's called loyalty. Something a lost toy wouldn't understand.
But regardless, they all unanimously agree to quit and give up on Forky except Woody. Hold up, doesn't that mean Buzz Lightyear decides to abandon Woody and refuses to back him up?
Like, I can't believe both Bo Peep and especially Buzz Lightyear would just give up on Woody so easily.
Surely Buzz would never do a thing like that.
When the world needed him most, he vanished.
Especially when Woody's perspective is one of not leaving a friend behind. You know, something Woody deliberately refused to do to him in the first movie, and something he didn't want to have to do in Toy Story 2 to Woody. Not to mention, Buzz's entire mission in Toy Story 2 was all about rescuing Woody despite all the odds. And here, Woody is essentially doing the same thing for Forky. So why would Buzz ever just abandon Woody like that? Well, clearly, even the writers realized that that would be pushing the limits of how much they can assassinate Buzz's ideals. So instead, they rely on him being too brain-dead to even think for himself. And he lets his button-activated voice box decide what he does! Worse yet, his voice box, beyond all logic and reason, only plays lines that tell him to leave!
We're going home, Space Ranger. Fall back. Planet retreat. There's two. Go. Time to fly. Exit the get back. Run. Get out.
Isn't it convenient that the only voice clips that play in this moment are all things telling him to leave, and he would rather listen to his inner voice than trust his friend and help him?
That is it, folks. The single most contrived moment in this entire disaster piece of contrivance. It is mathematically improbable and borderline impossible that his voice box would not play one single voice line that doesn't tell him to leave here. And also, why on earth does Buzz's voice box just play random lines in the first place? Most toys that have a voice box cycle between lines in a pattern. You know what? I just can't even with this anymore. Have I mentioned that the villain of this movie sucks? Gabby is one of Pixar's worst villains.
May I ask, when were you made?
Me? I'm not sure. Late 50s?
Me too. Gee, I wonder if we were made in the same factory. Wouldn't that be something?
So many coincidences going on right now.
The main reason she doesn't work is because she gets redeemed. And by redeemed, I mean she does a bunch of horrible things throughout the movie, emotionally manipulates Woody into forgiving her of all her crimes in return for nothing, then gets a perfect happy ending because she made a sad face.
Yeah, that's stupid they are just watching these events happen. Why do they care about her? She's a villain. She manipulated them. She used them. She stole from Woody, basically. She manipulated him into willingly giving it up, but that may as well just be theft because he never should have given it up in the first place. She did nothing to deserve that.
Gabby is a horrible person. She kidnaps Forky for no reason other than she thinks she can use him to manipulate Woody. She does not apologize for doing this. She then holds Forky captive and interrogates him while manipulating him into thinking she is actually nice, but still refusing to let him go, proving she doesn't actually care about his happiness, only her own. She does not apologize for doing this. She then attempts to forcefully manipulate and steal Woody's voice box against his will. She does not apologize for doing this. And then she emotionally manipulates Woody by declaring she just wanted to be played with, causing him to give her his voice box even though she has done nothing for him and is just taking advantage of his kindness by trying to break his heart by specifically using information she interrogated from Forky to do so.
Wow, isn't it amazing too that she only has all this information to manipulate Woody because Forky told it to her, just because Woody accidentally mentioned Andy once on the side of the road and happened to tell his entire life story to Forky?
She does not apologize for doing this.
All my dreams are coming true because of you. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for all that stuff. I'm not going to apologize at all for what I did. I'm going to act like I was totally nice this whole time and not a meanie.
Your compassion is overwhelming.
She then refuses to give Woody his voice box back when her plan fails, showing a clear lack of care for Woody and that he has already become an afterthought to her the second he stopped being useful. She does not apologize for doing this.
Like, look, this would have been the perfect time for her to say, "Oh, I'm sorry, Woody, for everything I put you through." But no, she just says, "Poor me, boo-hoo, Harmony didn't like me after all."
What if you're wrong?
Well, if you sit on a shelf the rest of your life, you'll never find out, will you?
I do like what Woody has to say here. It just falls a little bit flat because of Gabby's, not apologizing.
And lastly, she delays the group who is at risk of being left behind to have them watch her and make sure she gets a kid, even though she could have done this by herself, showing that she wanted insurance from the others as a backup plan if she gets rejected again. And she probably wouldn't have apologized for this if she hadn't been taken away.
Why does this movie want us to feel bad for Gabby when all she's done is villainous things and manipulate Forky and manipulate Woody and try to steal his voice box, and all completely unapologetically?
Does that sound good to you?
No, not really, no.
And on top of all that, when she gets rejected for the first time, the movie throws away a beautiful message in the form of accepting who you are and living out your life, trying to be a better you in the face of rejection and not letting the opinions of the world get to you. Like, remember that scene in Toy Story 2? The one where Woody loses his hat that I brought up before? It is there to set in place the idea that if a person truly loves you, then they will love you regardless of any issues you may have. And at the end of that movie, Bo Peep is proven right when Andy still chooses to cherish and play with Woody in spite of the tear on his arm. And even further on top of that, this can show how people who are born with disabilities or less attractive features don't need to fix themselves in order to be accepted by the world. Because those people who would have only accepted them if they were normal never really cared about them in the first place. Or else they would have accepted them prior to their attempts to quote-unquote fix themselves.
Also, I don't really understand this villain girl, because if the girl doesn't want to play with her because of the fact that her voice box is broken, then why should she care about her? I don't even know that many people in real life who play with dolls exclusively that have pull string voice boxes and will only play with them if the pull string voice box still works. Isn't the doll itself more important than the voice box? There are probably a ton of other people that would be way more interested in her without her even needing to fix herself. She doesn't even need it based on the logic I've already said. Look at it. See, this girl doesn't even care about her when she has the voice box, just as little as she cared about her when she didn't have it. This should be a wake-up call to Gabby, and guess what? She doesn't learn a single thing from this.
But no! Instead, the movie replaces that with a borderline toxic message that if you have a problem that you were born with, then you need to somehow find a way to fix it before getting accepted into society. And it's okay if you cheat and lie and manipulate along the way, so long as you make it clear that your life story is sad and horrible and people should feel bad for you and forgive anything bad you might do. I can't even comprehend how the movie managed to mess this up so badly. Especially because moving on after rejection / not being needed anymore is supposedly the main theme of the movie, at least when it comes to Woody, so this would have just added to the themes. I genuinely don't know how they managed to drop the ball so hard that they not only made the villain less thematically relevant, but potentially toxic on her message to the audience and an awful influence.
Wow, they don't make bad guys the way they used to.
Gee, it's not like there was a villain from the previous movie who was a big meanie that Woody, totally didn't care about at the end of that movie. Lotso.
Hey, where's that furball Lotso?
Yeah, I'd like to loosen his stitches.
Forget it, guys. He's not worth it.
Sometimes the villains bring their fates upon themselves, and the heroes shouldn't have to bail them out of their own situations. I know Woody is a selfless character, and it makes sense to do this stuff, but there comes a point where it's just too much. Especially because Gabby never, ever does anything for Woody.
Sarah! The button! Help me! Come on!
Just push it! Push it! Push it!
Where's your kid now, Sheriff?
Woody asked you for help. On your mark, and he treats you like that? Get set! He only cares about himself.
No! You're wrong. Woody's always trying to do right by his kid.
By putting everyone in danger. Ugh, that kind of crazy loyalty just...
You gotta love him for it.
So how come Bo Peep just suddenly changes her mind about Woody magically? After all that they just went through. That's what she should have thought about Woody the whole time. Why was she being so mean to him if she actually believed that?
You know, I think I'm about to lose my sanity going into my next point, as it is once again the return of Braindead Buzz.
Buzz Lightyear to the rescue.
Bonnie?
How about you actually think with your head, Buzz?
And this time, while not betraying his best friend for no reason, he is so mentally deteriorated that he believes it is a good idea to break the rules of the very universe he is a part of. Because there comes a point in which he tries to stop Bonnie from leaving in the RV, and this is based on the simple fact that she forgot her backpack and is about to leave without it, and that is the gang's only hope for delaying her.
Okay, if the flat tire is fixed and they need more time, why don't they just pop another tire? If that worked the first time, and it delayed their father for so much time. Well, not their father, Bonnie's father, that is. You know what I'm saying.
And so, the writers cooked up this masterpiece of a scene where Buzz is pushed to the point of just outright telling Bonnie she left her backpack behind.
Your backpack's in the antique store. Let's go!
Oh no, my backpack!
That's it. That's it. You are out.
There is so much wrongness here that I don't know where to begin. Firstly, the way he gets her attention and reminds her of her backpack is by saying something extremely conspicuous. Something that would never in a million years be programmed into a Space Ranger toy.
Wow, none of them totally thought that line he just said was super suspicious by any means, and only Bonnie picked up on it, even though the parents should be smarter and could easily hear what he just said as well.
Not to mention, when he says this, it comes out of his normal voice and not the slightly muffled audio of his voice box, making it even more conspicuous. And somehow, this only gets the attention of Bonnie. How? Her mother is literally holding Buzz, meaning she is closer, and what he said would be even more obvious to her. Did she and her husband just temporarily go deaf long enough for Buzz to blurt this out, then magically regain their hearing? And on top of that, none of the characters, not even Bonnie, who heard Buzz and what he said, finds what he said to be odd in the slightest. And if you think I'm overreacting, I say nay, because this was a huge point in the first movie, since even the slightest thing about the way Woody said something to Sid at the end caught his attention and made him wary.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1! Reach for the sky!
Huh?
Buzz especially should know better because he was there! He saw what happened to Sid! Is he not worried even a little that his actions might have big consequences?
So play nice.
Or how about the fact that this scene doesn't even need to exist at all? Bonnie could simply just remember that she left her backpack behind and go get it without this scene. It's not like her going to get her backpack even comes close to buying the characters enough time anyway. Or alternatively, still have her forget, but make the characters draw a picture of a backpack and nudge it close to Bonnie so that she sees it and remembers. No need for any stupidity. The only reason this scene exists is to give the illusion that the sideline characters actually have something to do and aren't meaningless in this plot. Unfortunately for the movie, I am not convinced. And just when you think it's not possible for this movie to get any dumber, this next scene happens.
Turn in 0.5 miles.
Wait a second. I have an idea.
Literally everything about this scene fails to make even the remotest bit of sense. Like, how does neither of the parents catch on to the fact that the GPS has a completely different voice suddenly?
Hey, right!
What? Right.
Right, turn ahead.
Huh. Does the GPS sound funny to you?
Honey, it's fine. Just drive.
Thought it sounded funny.
I'm just gonna ignore the fact that this sounds funny.
And how come the actual GPS does not give contradictory instructions that clearly expose the toys are talking? I mean, this dino girl literally screams her guidance at one point.
Turn right!
No, turn right!
Wow, that's totally not suspicious at all that it yells at you.
How is this not suspicious? I could also mention that the only control these characters have over the RV is the brake and acceleration. All they should be able to do is stop the RV and speed it up or slow it down. So can any of you out there explain to me, how in the name of Jiminy Cricket are they able to steer the RV back to the fairgrounds?
Because pulling on the accelerator and pushing on the brakes is going to affect the way in which he turns. Logic.
Oh, and when they do arrive, the movie pulls even more nonsense, without Forky is somehow able to lock the dad out. This should not be possible! All the dad has to do is turn the key and pull at the same time!
Yeah, why doesn't he just open the door the second he unlocks it? Like, Forky's plan definitely would not work. Or, well, technically it was Buzz's plan. See, even when he comes up with a plan on his own, it's stupid.
And don't even get me started on the idiotic joke about the dad going to jail.
Oh, we could
We're not sending Dad to jail.
You're no fun.
You're no fun for not wanting to send a good person to jail.
Why? Why does this guy want him to go to jail? This is not funny, it's just mean. If the dad goes to jail, it does not benefit anyone.
Sir, will you please step out of the vehicle?
Dad's totally going to jail.
Isn't that so funny that he might go to jail? How are they gonna get back home if he goes to jail?
This would literally just make Bonnie's life harder and sadder.
Also, here's a question. Why does the dad not get in trouble? Since there wasn't actually anything wrong with the vehicle, there's no excuse he can bring up to the police officers for driving like a madman. He should have gone to jail, technically.
It's especially not funny because he's completely innocent. Is it somehow hilarious when innocent people get sent to prison and suffer the horrible things that happen there? No, just no. Shut up, movie. You have long since failed at comedy. Just stop trying to be funny. You'll only embarrass yourself further. So, in order for Woody and company to get to Bonnie and the RV before it's too late, they secure the aid of Canadian bike whoever guy. And they have this big scene where he makes a big jump over a massive area in order for them to get to the point where they need to be. And firstly, can I just say, I simply do not care.
Why did they try to set up this big, like, emotional, epic moment for this character? Like, why should I care? Why has anyone ever been given a reason to care about this character?
Why are they trying to make us care about this character? He barely has any screen time, and part of that screen time is his insulting backstory. This scene makes me feel nothing. Well, nothing except confusion over how he can make this jump. Since the movie gives us no build-up or development for his character between now and his previous jump, nothing has changed since then. So why is he suddenly able to make this jump? Because the characters believed in him. It's fake drama, used to create cheap, fake emotional reaction in us, the audience. But guess what, movie? You failed! Oh, and after that is when we get the ultra-stupid fake redemption of Gabby.
Why does the security guard low-key kind of look a bit like Calhoun from Wreck-It Ralph?
And, as mentioned before, this character does absolutely nothing to change as a person. Her bad actions are never apologized for or made up. She just plays the victim card and she gets away with everything because the others feel bad for her.
Gee, I sure love that this villain character who only ever did bad things in this movie gets everything she ever wanted in the end.
We don't want the bad guys to win?
It's also extremely insulting that Gabby is only able to help this lost kid because of her new voice box, as the movie implies that this was the thing that made the girl like her. What this does is not only imply that she did need to be quote-unquote fixed in order to be loved and accepted, but it also makes her appear to be in the right for all the terrible things she did. Because, see, she needed to be fixed to get her happy ending, so her attempts to manipulate and/or kill Woody to forcefully steal from him before ultimately choosing to emotionally manipulate him was actually alright, because it led to her getting what she wanted. See, kids, this is why you too should always act in self-interest, because your happiness is more important than the happiness of others, so long as you make your life story sound more sad than theirs.
That makes it right? How horrible!
I guess this means it's okay to be an abusive, emotional manipulator, because you'll still get everything you wanted in the end, even if you do all that bad stuff.
That's messed up.
And with all that, we reach the final scene of the movie, Woody's big goodbye.
Gee, wouldn't it be so nice if he just... If this is how it ended and he left with Buzz and, went back to Bonnie? But no.
Believe it or not, when I first saw this movie, I actually cried at this scene. Does that mean this scene is actually good?
No.
It just means I was emotionally manipulated by the film into feeling that way, because I feel nothing but annoyance every time I have seen this scene since. Here's why this scene not only fails, but is in fact the ribbon tying off everything wrong with this movie and then some. Firstly, this goodbye scene has all these characters appear here to say goodbye to Woody, even though most of them were nearly completely absent from the film.
Look at all these characters who should have been in the movie but weren't because they got sidelined instead. Like, if this really was supposed to be the Goodbye to Woody movie, why do so many characters get sidelined that should have been there the whole time?
The emotions intended here fall flat because we didn't even get to go on one final big adventure with these characters.
Like, instead we spend most of this movie with a bunch of who cares side characters and a completely altered version of Bo Peep.
Secondly, the reason Woody stays behind is because he thinks he is useless. Something which is not only untrue, as I have already established, but also goes against the way Woody feels about being a toy. Even when Andy didn't play with him for years, he never gave up on him. Why should he give up on Bonnie after a couple of weeks at most?
It's not Woody's place to leave Bonnie behind. Woody only left Andy because Andy chose to leave him behind. It's Bonnie who should be the one to give him up, because he's Bonnie's toy, and he should be loyal to her. Woody is just abandoning Bonnie here to go after what he wants instead. He sees no value in being there for Bonnie, but that's not true because she did still play with him, and he was there when she was sleeping and comforted her in her sleep. So he obviously is not useless.
This flies directly in the face of everything, and I mean everything, that Toy Story 2 was about. You know, just the best movie in the franchise. In Toy Story 2, there is a pivotal moment for Woody where he has to choose between going to a museum to be preserved forever and adored by all, but never played with, or going back to his kid and risking also never being played with again, but without the adoration of the public and eternal preservation.
I don't have a choice, Buzz. This is my only chance.
To do what, Woody? Watch kids from behind glass and never be loved again? Some life.
And, at first, he makes the wrong choice, but he realizes this is a mistake and that it isn't about him. It's about Andy, his kid, and Bonnie should be no different from him. He decides that it's better to go back and risk not being played with, because to him, he will stay with his kid through thick and thin, regardless of whether they always love him.
You're right, Prospector. I can't stop Andy from growing up. But I wouldn't miss it for the world.
Because he knows that even if it doesn't seem like he does, there may come a time when he does need him, and he has to be there for him when that time comes. Whatever happened to one of Woody's main character traits being loyalty? He was willing to defend Andy against the other toys and go back to him, even when they wanted to go to the daycare in Toy Story 3. He was willing to do this because he knew that Andy wasn't going to throw them away, and he promised to stay with Andy for as long as he wanted him. and he was only willing to leave the others behind because they actively chose to turn their backs on Andy and refused to listen to him, even when he has proven that his words can be trusted.
Yeah, we can get back to Andy's, but we gotta move fast. We'll hide under the seats till we get back home.
Get it through your vinyl noggin, Woody. Andy doesn't want us anymore.
He was putting you in the attic!
He left us on the curb!
All right, calm down, both of you.
Okay, fine. Just wait till you see what daycare's like.
Why? What's it like?
Woody was in the right in that scene, and the terrible experience the characters went through at Sunnyside taught them a lesson about what happens when you are quick to turn your back on something or someone and too fast to trust something that looks better. Not to mention, Woody still cared about them, as once he knew what they had gotten themselves into, he went back to save them. But he still intended to go back to Andy regardless of whether they would follow him afterwards.
It's called loyalty. Something a lost toy wouldn't understand.
Gee, I sure hope Woody doesn't abandon this idea of loyalty by the end of the movie because Bo Peep is quote-unquote right.
No, wait, you did the exact opposite of that.
But here, Woody just decides to leave Bonnie over extremely thin evidence that she doesn't care about him. And all just so he can do his own thing with a little Bo creep. He should know that those moments when Bonnie snuggled him and played with him are enough of a reason to stay, because it's just those small moments that should mean everything to Woody.
I have a kid. You have a kid. Andy. And if he wants us at college or in the attic, well, then our job is to be there for him. Now, I'm going home. Anyone who wants to join me is welcome.
So basically, this movie has erased all of Woody's character development from Toy Story 2, and debatably Toy Story 1 as well, since that movie was about Woody learning that he isn't the only toy Andy will ever care about. Woody should be used to the other toys coming in and being the center of attention. Yet here he goes a couple of playtimes without Bonnie and suddenly it's the end of the world. And of course, considering his continued beliefs in Toy Story 3, that Woody would sooner abandon his friends who assume things that are false and go against what he knows is right, than abandon his kid.
I can't believe how selfish you all are.
Now look who's assuming things, Woody. Plus, he utterly abandons both Bonnie and the other toys, all just for his girlfriend Bo Creep over here, a character who has constantly treated him like trash up until this finale for no good reason. Seemingly, just because he made a few minor mistakes, some of which weren't even mistakes, and because he didn't agree with her about literally everything. Meanwhile, all the other characters who he is abandoning have never treated him like trash, and at worst got into arguments that were resolved in the past. Since then, they've gone to heck and back with him. Meanwhile, Bo Creep over here at her best was an emotional supporter of his in the past. Sure, he liked her, but it's clear that she has changed, probably for the worse. And staying with her is like staying in a toxic relationship.
Bonnie has been far kinder to Woody in this movie than Bo has, so why would he ever pick Bo over her?
He is choosing the person he wants to like and ignoring her abusive side because he is blinded by his past feelings, over the people who actually care about him. This is a terrible message to send regardless of if it was intentional. Never stay with someone who treats you poorly, no matter how much you want to like them. Oh, and regarding the idiot heads over here, Ducky and Bunny, make no sense. They spend the whole movie complaining about not being played with and wanting a kid. Then, when a kid is served to them on a silver platter, one who Woody himself mentioned, Bonnie, they do nothing. They don't even bring her up.
Hey. So long, cowboy.
Happy trails.
What do you mean, goodbye?
Bye, Jiminy! Bye!
Goodbye. Huh? Not goodbye.
Are you not going to go with them and be with a kid at last? Why are these two staying with Woody? This goes against everything they wanted. And they certainly aren't doing it because they are selfless characters, so we can rule that out. It's plain and simple, inconsistent, and poor writing here. And well, after all that, they have the gall to act like this is some sort of beautiful, poetic ending. Buzz and Woody each say half of the iconic line, "To infinity and beyond."
To infinity and beyond.
But what does that even mean anymore? The impact has literally been shattered, since it used to mean, since Toy Story 2, that the two of them would always stick together. And now they are saying it while willingly leaving each other, possibly forever. It's like the writers forgot what that line meant to these two characters, since there's such a narrative dissonance going on here. Oh, and the final shot is frustrating as well. since it's just a generic pan up to the sky, fade to black ending. Meanwhile, in Toy Story 3, they came up with a genius and an actually genuinely poetic final shot. That being of the clouds in the blue sky, which look reminiscent of Andy's wallpaper, which, if you remember, was the first shot of the first movie, making the whole trilogy feel like a complete package, wrapped up nicely with a bow. And here, we just get this.
Well, this movie was a mistake.
Well, here we are at last, my friends. The How I Would Have Done the Movie Instead section, where I take the movie and show ways I have brainstormed that it could be changed into a much better film, in my opinion at the very least. First things first, Gabby and her cronies are Thanos snapped from the film. She sucks, and I don't feel like rewriting her, quite frankly. She is so fundamentally flawed that it would be better to scrap her and make someone else the villain instead. Secondly, the main plot should revolve around Forky. Some elements could be kept the same as they are, but without him becoming irrelevant halfway through. Oh, and he should be way less dumb, as it implies everyone who has an existential crisis is stupid, which is a complaint I kind of forgot to mention, but that was never the biggest problem. It's more so that he's just annoying and not funny. So none of that in my version. All that stuff about Woody finding a new life would be completely reworked into a plotline about him becoming less relevant, but still loyal, and realizing his time as the popular toy is over. You know, similar to Toy Story 1, but from a different kind of perspective. He would have to come to terms with the idea that instead of being played with, he is the one who helps other toys to be the best version of themselves, like the team coach or a retired master of an art. However, Forky decides that he doesn't want to be a toy for Bonnie, and he should find a new life, so he runs away. Woody and Buzz notice him leaving and decide to follow him. However, he hitches a ride to a park several blocks away. Jessie and the other toys notice Woody, Buzz, and Forky are gone, and split into teams to keep Bonnie happy and figure out what happened to them. They discover a clue that Forky was looking up places to run away to and determine that he must have headed for the park. At the park, Woody and Buzz would run into a new character who takes the place of Bo Peep, a toy who ran away from her owner because she didn't want to be a slave, as she claims. She and Woody have several arguments over the reality of their lives as toys. Buzz discovers Forky has found this group as well and is enjoying himself. Forky claims to have found happiness, but somehow he feels empty inside. Woody has a talk with Forky and manages to convince him that what he feels is guilt, that his low opinion of himself doesn't reflect how others see him, and that without him, Bonnie will be less happy. He knows this because he once treated Buzz poorly and hurt Andy, his previous kid. Forky decides that he is willing to give life as a kid's toy another shot, but Des, or whatever this new character who is replacing Bo would be named, doesn't like it, and she considers Woody a threat who has come to spread lies about children to steal away her followers who know the truth. She stops Woody and Buzz from leaving and tries to talk Forky into staying. Forky says that maybe she is right, still unsure of what to do. Jessie and her team eventually arrive and discover Woody and Buzz are being held hostage. The toys plan a rescue mission, and the two factions fight. Eventually, the two sides become worn out, and Woody tries to talk to Des again. He tells her that he now realizes what the problem is, that both of them are right and both of them are wrong. They just have only come to see the world in one way. But not every toy will be loved the same way, just like how he is not loved as much over time by Bonnie as he was by Andy. But that doesn't mean he and the others are slaves to a kid. And it also doesn't mean Des has no point. Rather than seeing the world from only their experience, they need to accept that not every experience is the same. Des relents and decides to let Woody and the others go, but Woody says he can't just leave them here. Buzz says that instead of living life as a rogue, Des should try to help others who are like her so that no toy gets left behind. Des agrees and says that she will stop trying to control people and put her past behind her so she can help others move forward. Forky makes his decision again to go back to Bonnie, knowing now that all toys see things differently, and that if Bonnie is willing to give him a chance, then he should go back to her, because Des never had that same chance he has been given. And Woody learns through this experience how to help others achieve the best in themselves by putting their happiness above his own desires. And there you go, Rockatar's fixed version of Toy Story 4. It's not perfect, but what do you expect from a sequel that, quite frankly, doesn't need to exist at all? I'd still take it over what we got any day, though. As it is, this movie completely sucks.
Sometimes I wonder if the only reason why this movie was made in the first place, since it's such a pointless sequel, is just so they can show off all these special, fancy, schmancy animation things, you know. Because look how pretty this movie is. Ignore what's actually happening in the movie. Just look how pretty it is. Look, it's Toy Story characters. Don't you like that? It's in a very pretty movie. Who cares what actually happens?
And even if you don't agree, I hope you at least understand my perspective. As far as I'm concerned, unless Toy Story 5 changes my opinion, this is the true final scene of the franchise.
So long, partner.
And with all of that through, I have to, of course, give a massive shout out to all my patrons and channel members who just give a little bit extra to help support me on this journey through YouTube that I'm doing here. And I definitely can use all the help that I've been given.
Well, anyway, if you enjoyed this video, then perhaps you might want to check out some of my other Pixar videos in this playlist over here. Or if you're in the future watching this, then I'll probably have more of this Pixar Unholy Trinity series complete, which you can check out in this playlist over here. Though, of course, if you're not from the future, then you should go with this playlist. But most importantly of all, always remember to be iconic.